Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Women's Maximum Fitness Podcast. My guest today is Hailey Wegner. See, I always butcher that. Stumble over the names. Introductions are the worst because they're super awkward, but how are you doing today?
I am wonderful. Thanks for asking.
Awesome. So I started following you on Instagram a little bit ago, and I'm not even sure if you are in the middle of your prep. Are you headed towards?
Yeah, I am now under 4 weeks out from Junior USA's, which is May 14th. So I compete on a Friday, which means I'm just under 4 weeks out.
Okay. Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. So, let's get started. Usually I ask people about their athletic background and, well, first of all, how old are you and where are you living right now?
I am 24, but I'm turning 25 in a week and a half.
Okay.
I live in St. Louis right now. I'm here for my master's in dietetic internship program.
Okay.
So I will be here until August when that finishes up, but I'm originally from Wisconsin. So heading back to Wisconsin once this program is over. Enjoying St. Louis while I can, though.
Yeah. So in the Midwest, yeah, I'm in Michigan myself. This is going to be really interesting to me because, I mean, bodybuilding isn't super, I want to say it's not nearly as prevalent in the Midwest as it is, East,
Right.
West Coast, Texas, and Florida, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So I'm really curious kind of how you got your start with everything. So what is your athletic background? What did you get started with when you were, as a child? And then how did you get into bodybuilding? What was that transition?
Totally. So this is going to be right on par with the fact you pointed out I'm from the Midwest because my entire childhood was spent riding horses.
Oh,
So,
nice.
yeah, I was an equestrian my entire childhood, which I was really talented at. I got into it mostly because I wasn't coordinated in other sports. And I grew up in a sports town. Like my high school, you needed to play a sport to be involved in any sort of social circle.
Yeah.
So I found my horseback riding group and really excelled there. But it kind of comes with an expiration date. You don't go to college to horseback ride. Like there's no scholarships or anything like that. So, and another reason I really excelled with horseback riding was I was a really shy kid. And people who know me now, or even who follow me on social media and know my social media personality, would have never guessed that I was ever shy.
Yeah.
So I got along with horses. I was totally a horse girl.
I think it's really funny because like people, like I always tell it, even like personality tests and stuff, I am very much an introvert. Like I really love one-on-one conversations, but like, yeah, I don't like a lot of attention or just, talking to people when you're out and about. So it's really interesting. And you probably have to like work at it to, because like I've worked expos at the Olympia and Arnold and all that stuff, and I know that's my job. So I know that I have to talk to people, but if it was my choice, I definitely would.
Right. Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I do credit bodybuilding for giving me confidence and coming out of my shell in that way.
Yeah.
But when I was going to college and graduating from high school, leaving my hometown, it was kind of an unwritten rule that you sell your horse and, you move on to the real world. And I had, my mom actually was a bodybuilder. She is how I got introduced to the industry. But I never saw myself competing. I liked going to the gym and I was good at strength training because I was around horses all the time and I was just a strong kid.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I started to like it, was because it was another thing I was good at. People like to do what they're good at.
Right.
And when I got to college and had all this free time, and I was even spending my summers traveling for horseback riding competitions, using my time that way, I got to college and was like, well, what do I do now? And really threw myself into the gym and dedicated my first show prep in my freshman year of college, dedicated to my first show prep my freshman year of college, and then it took over everything.
So did you have a coach at that time, or were you going off the training? Did your mom actually teach you a lot about training so you knew what you were doing? Because I feel like the background story for a lot of people is either they found somebody who taught them what they needed to know and really got them on a good path, or you went to the gym and you were like, I don't know what, like, I know that's my background. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm going to look at what other people doing and, you know, do a lot of things wrong for a few years.
So my mom and my relationship is really strong and great, but we had always been more friends, had like a friendship relationship.
Okay.
So I joined her at the gym, but teaching me things wasn't really our relationship dynamic. But from having muscle awareness and that relationship with my own positioning, like I would in horseback riding,
Yeah.
honestly, a lot of training came really naturally. I could watch it and understand what I needed to feel.
Yeah.
And it was a really quick learning curve for me.
Yeah.
So that I'm totally blessed with that. And I used her coach for the majority of my childhood or teenage bodybuilding years.
Yeah.
And we had the benefit of being able to go together and
Yeah.
have that companionship. But really quickly, I kind of took off on my own and was understanding bodybuilding principles pretty quickly.
I think that's really huge because I mean, you see people all the time in the gym and sometimes you can just see why they probably aren't progressing or they won't progress. And it's just that lack of connection. It's the form you can see,
Right.
you know? So, I mean, even if you're learning to recruit more muscle fibers and being better at connecting, you know, we all are, you know, you start at a certain place, but some people are just better at it. And I think that's the difference between people that can really, you know, put on size versus people that are, you know, moving their body for maybe health purposes. Maybe their goal is to put on size, but that's not what the outcome that's going to, you know.
Totally.
Yeah. Yeah, very cool. Very cool. It is a blessing to be able to connect with the muscle like that because it's so hard to teach.
Exactly. Exactly.
So you did your first show. Did you
Yeah.
compete in figure?
I competed in figure. I was figure shaped since I started, but just really small. So
What was your stage weight for your first show and how did you place? Like how'd you do? What'd you think of it?
I loved it right away. I knew I would continue competing right away, even before I got on stage.
Yeah.
But I got like 11th out of 15 or something like that. I remember it's your first show. I was like 17 and they call the top 5 out and I'm waiting to hear my number. But what I really most wanted out of that 5 seconds of hearing people's numbers was to not be called so I could go eat. I was like, whatever gets me out of here to the buffet the quickest. But anyway, I was like 130 pounds my first time stepping on stage.
Yeah.
And definitely, it wasn't a very lean 130 pounds. I could have.
What's your height? You're taller, aren't you?
I'm 5'9".
Okay, yeah, yeah. That's a lot. It's people don't always understand the dynamics of muscle bellies and bodybuilding, but it is harder to, I mean, obviously 5 pounds of muscle on someone who's 5'2" is going to look like way more muscle than 5 pounds
Right.
on someone who's 5'9". So you have your work cut out for you for sure.
Totally.
Yeah.
And I put on like 40 pounds since then. So
What year was that you stepped on stage the first time for figure?
2015.
Okay. All right. So 6 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. People don't understand that always too. You know how everybody wants to build muscle in 6 months.
Totally. And it's conversations that I've been having a lot recently. My social media page is growing, and that always happens during a cut when you
Yeah.
start to get more shredded and your pictures just get more traction.
Yeah.
Um, and I have to, anyone who reaches out to me or people who want to comment on my luck or my genetics, like I have them, but I've also been doing this for 6 years.
Yeah. There's all the factors. And I see this with these interviews. It's very much this is a labor of love, but it's very much a science experiment to me as well, just because you get a little bit of for instance, what with your siblings, like, where are you, an only child?
I'm
Or
the oldest.
oldest? Yeah. And it's funny because I feel like a lot of people that get involved in bodybuilding are either an oldest child and they're very good at it because their attention to, you're just very like with everything, or you're youngest because, it's more of a creative side that you get to explore. So and I'm a youngest, and it's just interesting what the specific variables that go into making somebody either who's involved in the sport or somebody who excels in the sport as well. It's just,
Totally.
yeah, it's super interesting. But like you said, the background, the athletic background is huge because, you're already planting the seeds of building that muscle, being a horseback rider for,
Right.
your childhood and moving on up. So,
And honestly, there's a lot of connection between being a good equestrian and being a good bodybuilder. And a lot of it comes down to the attitude, the horsemanship that you are expected to have when you're in the ring. I never really got nervous stepping on stage, and it was because I was used to the individual attention and being judged for performance.
yeah.
Which a lot of people struggle with when they're a shy kid and then try to start bodybuilding.
Yeah, yeah. Especially a lot of people want to do it as a bucket list, and it just precautionary. You're like, there's so many more variables to this than just, well, I mean, for instance, weight loss. It's not even a weight loss competition.
Totally.
Right.
I tell people all the time too that there's a misconception that bodybuilding is exercising for sport, and it's not. It's getting lean for sport.
Yeah.
And that comes with a mountain of mental hurdles that someone who exercises doesn't have to worry about.
Well, it's like what you had said. The first thing you were thinking about when you were on stage wasn't even about winning or placing anymore. It was about food. And you get so food focused, even in your first show, if you hadn't really gotten lean enough, it still was more extreme than you probably ever dieted. And, you can't mentally, you can learn to get better at that, but it's still the best of the best people still are fighting that struggle, especially the last 4 to 6 weeks of their prep. Yeah.
I'm really fortunate to never have had a unhealthy relationship with food.
Yeah.
But I study dietetics. Nutrition is what I've loved to study since before high school. So my entire life revolves around food. It's how I work, it's how I play. So I tell people all the time too that I've graduated into those pressures or those stressors or those like mental, what I'm, urges that pop up don't really faze me anymore because I think about food all the time, every day. But you kind of have to graduate and grow into getting good at that. The impulse control isn't there.
Yeah.
And I compare it all the time to like when you're a baby and you are in a diaper and you can freely release your bladder whenever you want.
Right.
Grow up, you learn that there's an appropriate time to use the bathroom and you aren't just relieving your bladder whenever you have to go to the bathroom. It's the same thing with hunger cues and learning that food can have a schedule, or there's a metabolic advantage to eating on a schedule. And the more science you bring into it and the more you can understand why things are happening, the easier it is to cope with those impulses. But they're there. Like from infancy, we cry when we're hungry. So we just have to remember that we're humans and those impulses are normal, but to
Yeah.
turn it into a sport comes with a lot of training.
Well, and it's funny because I just had this with a client check-in yesterday, and I was talking about how, she was saying how she had, she's been doing really, really great the last 3.5 months. I think she's lost 25 pounds, and she has weight to lose, so she's in the top of the near 200 marks, but, and then she had a week where she just kind of had 2 days where she really went off track, and she's had a lot of stress going on and all this stuff. And she said, I said, what was the trigger? What happened? And she said, well, I just think that I was really stressed because of this, this, and this. And I fell back onto old habits. And I said, well, the goal is to create new habits
Yep.
that those will be the habits you fall back on. And it reminds me, it's very similar to, when you have a good relationship with food and you make healthy choices and those are your habits, like when you go on vacation and you have the option to, splurge and you're drinking and you're eating all this stuff, after a few days of that, you really get sick of it. And you're just like, I want a salad. I want to get to the gym. Like, this isn't fun for me anymore.
Right.
Because your good habits are your old habits, and that's what you want to fall back to. So I said, you haven't been doing this long enough to really eradicate these old behaviors, and that's why we're creating, new habits. So those will be the habits you fall back on when you're stressed. Yeah.
It's so helpful for people to understand that like that is a almost expected progression.
Yeah.
That it's only going to get better with time and training.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And and then when you're in that deep prep and your hormones are kicking in, telling you to eat peanut butter because your body fat is so low, you do fall back on, what your goals are, what my habits I've created, and and then just being realistic about time, because you can do anything for a period of time as long as you know it's going to end. So
Totally.
yeah, for sure. So so you had your first show, you got hooked. So what was the progression after that with with your next shows and leading up till now? So tell us a little bit about competition prep history.
Well, I was super small. So up through every off season, my intention was to grow, and I have had some sloppy off seasons, but that was more towards the beginning of my bodybuilding career when you haven't formed those really trained habits yet. So I competed pretty much every year.
Okay.
With about a 8 to 9 month off season up until 2020 when COVID hit.
Yes. Yeah.
And then I took 2019 until now. It's going to be about 2 years since I've been on stage. And that extended off season that I did not want and did not plan for is 100% everything that I credit for why this prep is going so well.
Yeah, the break.
Yes.
Yeah. So tell us about what happened. So were you in St. Louis at the time?
I was in Wisconsin. So
Okay.
I competed in Vegas at USA's in July of 2019. I was still in Wisconsin. I had really no plan or intention on moving.
Yeah.
That December is when I decided to apply for these master programs. And that would have been December of 2019. In May of 2020 is when the program began. So I was fixated on competing before that program began.
Okay.
And that I was going to compete in May of 2020. Okay. So I was on prep. I was about 5 weeks out when the nation shut down. Right. I decided to keep prepping and that I wasn't going to let it get to me, because initially the NPC made an announcement that they were only going to push shows back to this date, and then they moved it back to this date. And I hung on up until I think it was May 1st, and I was planning on doing a July show. At that point, I said it's just too long. I've been prepping since December and I'm not going to continue to prep until August. So stopped prepping. But I never got sub 5 weeks out. So I didn't really step on the gas yet. So my dieting and cardio and everything was moderate. I wouldn't have considered it. Now looking back, I didn't really consider it a full prep. Just got into a better body composition to continue my off season.
Yeah.
But at the same time, through COVID is when I hired my current coach. I'm working with Shelby Starnes, and I knew he was an inspiration to me since I started bodybuilding.
Okay.
He kind of helped shape some of my philosophies and how I looked at bodybuilding, because he was someone who spoke on nutrition in a way that I liked to think about it and understand it, and had some really good athletes that I looked up to when I started competing as a kid.
Yeah.
And I knew going through COVID that if anyone was going to get me through it, it was going to be this person who I've wanted to work with my whole life.
Yeah.
So I purchased a year of coaching. Like literally 3 days later, I was like, I'm not competing anymore. So I got to work with him through a really long off season.
Yeah.
It ended up all being a ginormous blessing. And I'm super thankful that I got to find a blessing out of that whole situation, because I was initially really bummed out about it, just like everyone else was.
So did you have gym access where you were in Wisconsin, or did you have home equipment? What were you doing? Training?
Yeah. My mom, my parents, both my parents I got my athletic background in getting into working out from both of them actually, but my mom took it competitively. They both have really equipped gym setups. So took a 30-minute drive to either one of my parents' houses and worked out.
Perfect. That's
I
awesome.
also bought a Bowflex, which I thought was going to be like a stepper elliptical thing, which I thought was going to be so easy, and it kicked my ass every day. I love that machine.
Really? What is it? It's a stepper, a Bowflex stepper.
Let me find the exact name.
That's so funny. I actually ordered the Bowflex adjustable dumbbells during the lockdown.
Oh, boy.
Well, and they just came when I was home with COVID. So it was I know 9 months later, but like $369 or something. That's the best investment ever. They go up to 52.5 pounds adjustable up to 5. They're so great.
It's called the Bowflex Max Trainer.
Okay.
And it is intense. I loved it.
That's awesome. Was it an expensive piece of equipment, or did they have it available?
I think I spent $1,800 on it.
Okay.
I was looking at Stairmasters to buy, but my ceilings were too low. So I was like, I have to get like an elliptical.
Oh, yeah.
I never will ever run outside.
No.
Don't make me run. I'll get shin splints and I will be so crabby.
Yeah. No, it's so funny because my daughter she had her first soccer game yesterday after being sick from COVID too. And she was like, they don't even know I'm fast because I can't breathe. And I was like, well, you can't breathe. And I said, you know what though? I said, it's so awesome because I was a runner. Like I ran a half marathon. I used to run.
Yeah.
And I was like, I kind of feel like I would run sprints now if I could, but I have like a torn meniscus in my knee. So I don't want to, everything is about when you get to my age about not irritating your body. Yeah. So running is like, but yeah, I see people running and I'm like, oh, who is chasing you? Like, what is
right
here?
If I see someone running outside, I like grab my hip, like, oh, that hurt. Don't make me look at it.
They don't look happy. No offense to runners, but they don't look happy running. Of course, I mean, you don't usually look happy lifting either. There's a lot of
or on my Bowflex Max Trainer, I was miserable.
That's so funny. That's awesome. I'm going to look into that. That's really interesting, especially because, the stair steppers are awesome, but like you said, you have to have like a cathedral ceiling or something in order to have room for them. So, yeah, very cool. So, all right. So you are, yeah, we're talking about competition prep and, through the pandemic, then you were working with Shelby.
Yeah.
So what happened next?
I moved to St. Louis in August, and I also think that that was a huge change in my performance at the gym. I am a nutrition coach and personal trainer, so that's always been my main source of income. And when I was in Wisconsin, going to the gym was very social time, unintentionally, but
Yeah.
it's because the gyms that I worked out at were the same gyms that I trained my clients at, and I rarely could ever go in without, seeing a client or talking to someone or, some sort of social
Yeah.
situation going on.
Yeah. Depending,
So
I was gonna say, depending on what your goals are, that can be a game changer too. Because when I first started training, I had a lot more time and I wanted to spend more time in the gym. So not only was I training for too long with too much volume, but I also was socializing. So I would be at the gym for like 2 or 3 hours.
right,
You finally just go, hey, I'm just gonna like give you the smile and nod and move on. it,
right,
it does make a difference in your workouts.
yep.
Yeah, go on.
So, COVID has blessed me in the other way of transitioning to completely online for all my clients. And so I wasn't personal training at the gym anymore or relying on personal training income. And so I could take my work to St. Louis and continue doing what I was doing with a degree of separation that ended up helping me in the gym a lot. Continued my off season and had an excellent off season, and then school began, which is it's a pretty intensive schedule, but my benefit, the way that I benefited was I've started prepping in college. So I've never known a schedule that gives me big blocks of time to get things done.
Sure.
And I now find that if I do have big blocks of time to get things done, it's harder for me to commit to a
Yeah.
routine. So,
It is easier to procrastinate when you have more time because you feel like you can put things off.
yep.
Yeah.
And so, really, just a bunch of pieces came together to create this flow that I've been in since I got here. And got into prep, starting prep around right after Thanksgiving, loosely, so that I was enjoying Christmas, and then really dove in. But since then, I've just been doing my thing, getting ready for this show, getting ready for school to end, and
Yeah.
having a good time.
That's really awesome. So, I mean, you're at this point now, you're going for the pro card, right?
Yes.
Yeah. That's the goal. Yeah.
Yes.
So that's really, really cool. Well, yeah, we look forward to that. It's going to be awesome.
I am super excited. It feels like it's been a long time coming, but looking back at the situations and where I was with my different stages of prep, no, it's never been right. It's never felt like the right time. And I always have the perception of like, if I should have won, I would have won.
Yeah.
I shouldn't have won because of X, Y, or Z reason in the past. And now there is legitimately no reason. So I'm like, for the first time, there's nothing else that I could do to make this pan out. And of course, things can happen, and I don't know who else is going to show up, and someone might be better, and whatever. But for the first time, I really feel like I have all of the tools. I'm executing on all of the tools, and there's nothing, no stone unturned sort of situation. So
Yeah.
I'm really excited.
I think the coolest thing what you said was just how you recognize how everything has flowed and moved in your life in order to get you to the places where you need to get. And you don't, that's not always a blessing that you get to see when you look back, see why did this happen or that happen. But it just sounds like the dots all connected really, really nicely for you to put you where you are today. So yeah. And I think that pandemic did that for a lot of us who are actually, who think a lot about what's going on in our lives, because it did give us an opportunity to step back and say, you know, what do I want out of life? And, you know, I have a lot of privileges that have been taken away from me at this point, and I need to figure out what's important to me and where do I want to go with things. So
Absolutely.
yeah, super cool. Super
Yeah.
cool.
It's
So
one thing to hear that and like get advice from someone and like that everything happens for a reason.
yeah.
It's another thing to live it and to be able to now
Yeah.
trust it with every intuition that I have,
Yeah.
that life doesn't happen to you, it happens for you. So
Yeah.
that's how I'm able to approach life now. And that's another blessing of that whole time frame.
Yeah, for sure. If you think about things at all, I mean, yeah, platitudes, people throw those around all the time, but when you can actually see it in your life and you're like, you know, I know it, but I really mean it. This really does happen for a reason, you know,
Yep.
especially at such a young, you know, at a younger age when you are, you know, a lot of people don't recognize these things
Yeah.
until they're older. So, you know, because of your occupation, I'd love to ask you just a couple of questions about, you know, maybe some advice that you could give to listeners. I think there's a common theme that runs through when I talk about issues that women have with diet and training, but what are some of the, oh, and I just want to commend you as somebody who was a personal trainer in person before you went into online coaching, just because I feel like that's such a great experience to make you an even better online coach.
100%.
Yeah. So what are some of the, you know, do you work with prep clients as well as lifestyle clients? So all across the board?
Correct.
Yeah. So what are, especially for women, what are some of the common things that you see with, like, you know, mistakes with, let's talk about dieting, because I feel like this can't be hammered home enough. What are
Right.
some of the mistakes that you see?
Yeah. So before I go into any depth of exploration about what a client is, what the client's goal is, I want to find out why. And almost 100% of the time, people are looking for a certain body type because they don't feel comfortable with who they are or how they look. And going from where they are to what they want to look like is, of course, the piece that they don't know how to do themselves. But being able to dig into why, what have you tried already, gets to the, like you said, the mistake that a lot of women make is that they should be dieting and getting smaller and working out harder and eating less food to create a physique that they want. And more often than not, starting to work with people, they start to find empowerment in feeling better, feeling like they have more energy,
Yeah.
being strong, and growing muscle, which all comes from eating more than they would have ever expected. It all comes from working out less than they would have ever expected and giving more energy into their workouts because they have that energy from being fueled properly. And more often than not, people's goals will change as they start to connect the dots of what it means to be fueled for athletic performance, what it means to be fueled to have a fulfilling life, and what putting muscle on does to a physique. And will change their initial goal of, I want to lose weight, or I want to get smaller, or I want to be thinner, to I want to keep getting stronger. I want to see this muscle develop. or even I want to make a performance goal, like some people get into powerlifting or want to work on certain lifts. And being able to have a path where more is the goal, where you get to choose abundance over taking away, people end up having a much more fulfilling relationship with fitness and can start to figure out where to put it in their life without taking parts of their life away. And so it's a total additive to what they're already doing, and they feel fulfilled. And it's a long way of saying that eating less and doing more cardio, working out longer, is rarely the prescription for someone who comes to me with an idea of how they want to move their fitness forward.
Yeah. I think it's really interesting how, not just from what society has taught us or what the trends have been in the past, 20 or 30 years or whatever, but when you look at your life and you think about the things that you accomplish, they make you feel strong. So it's like,
Yes.
why wouldn't you do something in the gym that's going to make you feel strong? So doing 2 hours of cardio and starving yourself makes you feel like shit. Why?
Right.
Why are you thinking that, when you get this great job promotion, or think about when you're little and you're a girl and you run a race and you beat the boys, you know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
these are the accomplishments that make us feel strong. So it's like, I don't understand why, obviously we've been fed this narrative to not take up space, and it's frustrating, because everything that we do in other aspects of our life are things that are to encourage us to make us feel strong as women. And when we go into the gym, so many of us, like you said, we shrink ourselves in order to try to, it's like, that's not what makes us feel good about ourselves.
Right. And I think it surprises people when they sign up or when they're inquiring what some of my philosophies are, and they ask, okay, so what are you going to have me eat? And my follow-up question was, well, what do you like to eat?
Yes.
How are you going to have me work out? How do you like to work out?
Right.
And people think that, I don't know what it is about human psychology, but it seems that everyone is more attracted to a program that makes you feel or makes it look like you're doing more, like you're changing more. It's more of an intervention, so it must mean that the results are going to be
Right.
heightened.
Right.
But that's not the case.
Or like just making us, like you said, having to, like, I must be doing everything wrong, so we can't take what I'm basically doing and modify it. It's like, this is what has been, what you've been used to. So we can't turn yourself upside down and say, hey, now here's the new, like, nobody's going to stick to that. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if their goals are as shallow as losing weight or becoming thinner, it doesn't stick.
No.
And finding a goal that's like really actionable is a huge part of making that stick and turning it into a lifestyle change.
Well, if someone's looking for, a lot of people are looking for a happiness, right? They're not happy. They're looking for a happiness. So, that is a process, an achievement, and, and also a choice. I've had a lot of clients who think about times when they were happy and they were thinner. So they think that that number is when they're going to be happy.
Right.
No, that was a time. It doesn't have anything to do with you weighing 115 pounds, which I don't even know people who, like, it's just not even common to be weighing what people weighed when I was like in high school. You know what I mean? Weighing 115 pounds or 110 pounds is like, obviously it was not healthy because nobody weighs that anymore.
Totally.
Yeah. Yeah. So really interesting. So what does your training split look like in your training? Let's talk a little bit about that, because I think that's always interesting too. What's your, go ahead, tell us.
For probably the last 3 years, my legs have lagged behind my upper body. And so I've done 2, sometimes 3 leg days a week, depending on how the split breaks out. So I'll have 2 leg days per week. And in between the 2 leg days, we'll have 2 rest days, a shoulder, chest and arms, and back day.
Okay. Okay. So, and I think a lot of people don't understand that you can train, legs or certain body parts 2 or 3 times a week, as long as you are doing different exercises and you're able to recover from them. So the exercise selection is really important, is it not?
100%. Yes. If I ever have a third leg day in the mix, it's more like an accessory day. Like I'll mostly train back, but then add glute bridges if I didn't hit any glute heavy exercises through my other 2 leg days, things like that. But you're right, being able to split the exercises so that you're not hitting the same muscle group within at least 48, sometimes 72 hours of each other for that recovery time.
Yeah, absolutely. What else? I don't know. Is there anything else that you think is important for people to know about your training? Are you pushing yourself to failure for the most part in your, in your workout? So you have like a top set and a back off set. How do you configure that with your intensity, I guess?
Yeah, I have always trained intensely. I think everyone who has ever worked out with me or under me can attest to that. But that's complete annihilation is not my goal. It's recruiting the muscle that I'm trying to recruit until it fails.
Yeah.
And that can look underwhelming to someone who expects complete failure to be crying, right? So yes, I train to failure, and some of my sets, like big sets, will look dramatic, and I might drop the weights, or I might be swearing as I'm leaving the gym because fuck that set. But there's also part of my training that if you would watch, you might think looks underwhelming, but I still achieved failure. That comes from a lot of muscle mind connection and developing that relationship with my own body throughout a long time of training. I often start clients with a more volume-based training set, and that's to get them to understand what it feels like for a muscle to fatigue until it's can't.
Yes.
I can't expect someone to be able to do that on a set of 8 or 6 or even 10 right away, because that's something you have to start to feel yourself. You might need a set of 30 or 40 so that you know what that feels like. That being said, I love to throw sets of 30 or 40 into my training every now and again.
Brutal.
Yeah.
Nice. I think that's really important too with people if they're trying to figure out how to connect with a muscle. It can be just more reps and going through full range of motion, not necessarily trying to push harder. You push harder, you start using substitution and other muscles will take over. But yeah, like you said, a squat can look more intense than, a bicep curl.
Yeah.
And both you can hit failure with form with both of them. So yeah. So is there anything else that you wanted to share, you wanted to plug? And if not, we will go into this, these 10 questions, a little bit of getting to know you.
I'll plug for myself.
Yeah, absolutely.
I do run Royal Figures Nutrition and Training. I'm not currently accepting clients, but I will be after my competition. So that's May 31st. And I've dedicated a lot of time to appreciating where other people might be coming from besides just a fitness background through being in school for this master's in nutrition and physical performance, but also this dietetic internship. Working with a lot of clients who have legitimately no nutrition background. I'm looking forward to be able to reach that population more than I ever have,
Yeah.
because my personal brand, like who I am, is pretty intense. My workouts are intense, and what I do is intense, and what I expect from my clients is pretty intense.
Yeah.
So I've learned to be able to meet a client where they're at, even if it's at the very, very beginning.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to be able to help those people more. That will be after May 31st.
What do you think is the biggest reason why people don't have, like, people have such a limited knowledge about nutrition? Do you think that it should be taught more in schools? Do you think that the information, I mean, I know I grew up with the food guide pyramid, so, but with the internet, you would think, okay, so people do have access to really good information. Maybe it's hard for them to decipher what is good, what's bad, or they want to do what's easy, and that's not what's sustainable. I mean, yeah.
I am actually, so I applied for a position on the Missouri Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics and got a student board position, and am part of the public policy committee there. I've become really passionate about public policy for dietetics, so the field that registered dietitians are in, and I'm going to dedicate a lot of time to getting education through the lifespan, starting with children. There's nothing that I tell a client about what's healthy that they don't know.
Yeah.
They've heard it, they understand, and they're just surprised that it's that easy, or that they're surprised that they should be eating this much, or they're surprised that it isn't a complete overhaul of what they like to do or what they're used to doing. Yeah. So sometime between when they understand what is a healthy carb and what is an unhealthy carb, they lose their relationship with how that can fit into their life. Yeah. And I think that really does hit during that like pivotal time of like self-searching and teenage years of like, where do I fit and who am I? Lose the relationship with healthy nutrition and what healthy means. All a long-winded way of saying that I believe the education on nutrition should be a fundamental part of even middle school, elementary school, and high school curriculum.
Yeah, because I mean, when I think about basic things that like people should be doing just to be healthy, it's like portion control, upping your protein amounts, and drinking more water. I mean, it's just like that type of simple thing, but people are like, well, let's focus on all the things I can't have. Exactly. And now I want them a lot.
Exactly.
And then you just have set yourself up for failure instead of, like you said. I mean, you could look at two different lunches, and one is full of quote unquote healthy things, and one has, half healthy things and not. But if you're eating your correct amount of calories, both are doable, and it's whatever you can stick with. So I don't know. It just, trying to get rid of that black and white thinking is got to be, I know it's something I struggled with my whole life too. Just being like, it's okay if you eat some candy today.
Right.
I'm not on prep. So,
right.
I'm just living my life. But yeah, the emotions that people have around food and the black and white thinking is, it's really, really tough. It's really tough.
That is something to touch on, that even for a competitor, food is much more than fuel. Yeah. It's written into how we live and how we have relationships with other people. It's written into our traditions, into our culture. And you can't expect someone to be able to think about it like a formula, because it's not. And so being able to talk on that and reach people, even if their goals are to compete, is super important. And to be able to get to someone before they get to the point of having to rewire is where I think the most change can be made. I don't know what it'll look like or what exact action needs to happen to make that become true, but I'm gonna keep working on it.
I think you're right with saying it starts with children. Not that, I mean, obviously they're going to do whatever their family instills. That's where they get their first teaching. But I'm trying to think of what this quote was that it's sort of coming to mind as something about it's a lot easier to, I think it's raise. It was based on boys, but it said raise healthy boys than fix broken men. And I think it's just about people. It's like you have to, when your brain is a sponge, put that good information in there so
Yep.
that you aren't undoing what you're doing as an adult. So, and I could get into what the government has taught us about nutrition over the last 40 years, but obviously mistakes have been made there, but there is a lot of good information. And I just commend you for, the path that you've taken, because it's a challenge, but putting good stuff out there. It'd be really fun to have you back on and do like a Q&A if people had diet Q&As. That would be fun.
I would love to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be a registered dietitian by September. Okay. And so that is a little bit more credential behind the information. Yeah. So that would be really fun.
And you'll have your pro card by then too. So
yes.
That'll be awesome. All right. Well, let's do our, where can they find you? What is your Instagram is?
It's at Hailey Wegner 7, HAILEYWEGNER 7.
Okay, perfect. And I will put all that in the show notes and anything else that you want me to, but let's do these little get to know you 10 questions and then we'll call it. So music style, country, rock, rap. What do you?
Rap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Do you have, and this is always difficult because people are always so busy with their education, but do you have a latest favorite read? Or just a favorite read?
Be Obsessed or Be Average by Grant Cardone is one of my favorites. Okay. I have not had a chance to read for pleasure in a little while, but I always come back to that one.
Okay, awesome. I will link that as well. So podcasts or YouTube, what are you usually engaged in?
Honestly, I'm not consistent with either.
Okay.
I usually plug into my music. If I'm on YouTube, I'm listening to podcasts, so I would answer podcasts between the two. Okay.
YouTube is so amazing for finding any type of information. I think that's something I think people are, it's like any question you put out there, you're going to find qualified individuals, or if you want to rewire your house with electricity, you can too. All right. Dogs or cats?
Dogs.
Do you have a dog?
I have a golden retriever.
Oh, so cute. I know.
So cute.
Oh my goodness. I love dogs too. I love them all. It's funny because usually my bunny is in the background and you can hear him like jumping around and stuff. But he's gone for the weekend. We got this bunny. He's so tiny. He's just this teeny little lap. Probably, I would say he's like 3 pounds full grown. He's so tiny.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
And my daughter's teacher is a bunny breeder, and he got this little female who's really tiny. And so they're going to breed them and just get these little puff balls. And I'm so excited. I'm so excited. And Anna was like, we're going to get another bunny. And I was like, yeah, I'll stick them in my pocket. Like we already have 2 bunnies in our apartment. So anyways, animals, I love them. All right. So baby animals or baby humans?
Wow. So I'll say baby animals just because it is what's next for me. We are getting another puppy in September. So That's exciting, but I am obsessed with babies. I love babies.
Yeah.
Can't wait to have my babies. I'm so excited. I love kids. I feel like you get a mix of people in bodybuilding, or
Yeah.
like I get a mix of people anywhere who either are like obsessed with kids or
Yeah.
like, please put your baby pictures away.
Yeah.
I am a show me your baby type
Yeah.
of person.
I know. I am the same. And I'm the same with baby animals, but I do love a friend of mine had his little, because with COVID, you can't like hold or touch anybody. Everybody's all paranoid about that. And like he had his little daughter, she's 2, and he's black and his wife is white. So she's like this little mixed. She's just beautiful. She's so beautiful. And I was like, she never met me before. And I walked in and I was like, hi. And she's like, hi. And she goes running at me. And I was just like, oh my gosh, I don't even remember when I last held somebody. And little 2-year-old, like so
Perfect.
So cute. Yeah. That's really good to know that you're equally. I always joke and be like, gonna be an Amber Alert because I'm stealing. You have to be careful who your audience was, and when you say like, oh, crazy lady.
I find myself like staring at babies when I'm in public, and I'm like, oh, they probably think I'm really weird.
I know. But I know I love them. I love them. That's really funny. Okay. Heels or sneakers?
Sneakers.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, getting dressed up is nice, but I mean, you don't even get to do that anymore.
I know.
We're going to go put your fancy mask on and
totally.
Hike a mountain or swim in an oasis?
I'm going to say hike a mountain.
Okay.
I don't love to swim. I had a near drowning experience as a kid. So now I'm a floater. I will bring like a blow up,
yeah,
float in an oasis. So between the 2 points where I am like picking out every word, I'd hike a mountain.
Oh, well, I'm sorry that you almost drowned as a child. That's
okay. I'm not afraid of water. Just like, let me hold something. And
yeah. No, that's totally relatable because we went to Mexico for a family vacation a few years ago, and my daughter and I too were just like, I don't like dark water or the ocean. I don't like.
Yeah.
It freaks me out. I'm like, when is a shark gonna attack me? And I won't see it coming. Like I don't, I'm like, I never realized that I didn't actually like it. I'm like, I'll watch a sunset and the ocean is really beautiful to look at, but I honestly don't really like being in it or on it. It just freaks me out.
Well, it's the same thing of like, if you were walking in a tunnel, but the other side was black and you didn't know how long it was going to go on for.
Yeah.
Don't be like, yeah, I want to walk in there. Why does everyone judge me for not wanting to go in the water? I can't see it. I
know. And like whenever we look at like if there's water in like Florida or whatever, I'm like, there's a gator like 2 inches away from you. You know it. They're hiding and waiting to bite your, eat your dog or whatever it is. It freaks me out. It's so funny. Burgers, pizza, or sushi?
Burgers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You like put the egg on it and stuff, or what do you?
Yeah. There's very few foods that I wouldn't like do ridiculous things for. I don't like cinnamon rolls. People are always surprised to hear that because it's so specific.
Yeah.
If I had to, like, I always play if you had to choose one to never eat again.
Yes. Yeah.
From those 3, it would actually be pizza.
Yeah. I have to say that I'm down with that also because it makes me feel like shit. That's why.
Yeah.
I don't feel well eating pizza. My daughter went out with her dad last night and she was so excited to get wings. And I was like, I could go the rest of my life without eating a wing. Like it does nothing for me. Does nothing for me. It's just funny what certain foods are like people's do or die. And other people are just like, I don't know.
Not huge with cheese. I'm not a cheese person, which is funny because I'm from Wisconsin. So people are always super surprised about that.
That is really funny.
Yeah.
You're supposed to be a diehard cheeser.
I know. I don't like beer either. Everyone from Wisconsin likes beer.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, that's really funny. Okay. Let's see. What's your favorite body part to train?
It changes
Mhm.
often. I'm gonna say legs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your weakest part.
My weakest part. It's because it's the workout that I go in with the most intent of like grow these.
Yeah. Do you ever say stuff like that? Because I sometimes say stuff, even though I know I'm not actually growing right now. I'm just like, grow.
Right.
Like while
Yeah.
you're, yeah. It's funny that the mantras that run through your head while you're training that
Right.
get you motivated, even though they might not make sense.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Three people. One you admire, one who inspires you, and one who motivates you, or a group of people. You could say that as well. So admire. Who do you admire?
There's quite a few. Um, man. I'll say my parents equally for admire. They both really have always supported and stood by anything that I decide to do with my life. And I find that in this industry, it's common to find people who have a lot of resistance against what they're doing and people who don't support what they're after. And it's unfortunate, but it usually comes from a place of like jealousy and like wanting to tear someone down because they feel poorly of themselves. And my parents have always given me the opportunity to be my own person, and it usually didn't come with a lot of direction, but it turns out that was really great for me and what I needed. So I admire them a lot as people and parents, and think that I'll carry a lot of that into my own relationship with my future children someday.
Yeah.
I'm inspired by my boyfriend, Bill Shem. He started his own massage company during the pandemic, and it's a second career going into massage therapy, but found passion in something that I'm actually going to tell this story really quick because it's so adorable. I was sitting there working, and I had been running a business for a while, and he was working for me. And I could tell that it always bothered him that, like, in our relationship, I had my thing, and he was a supporting role, but he didn't have his thing. And I was working on my computer, and he came up behind me and started rubbing my shoulders. And it was like so impressive. His hand strength was just like right there, just great. I'm like, gosh, you should be a massage therapist. And like, we both paused for a second, and his background is with personal training. He understands the body. And
Yeah.
wait, would you want to be a massage therapist? And he's like, yeah, I guess. And so we Google it, and there's a new massage training company opening up like down the street that started applications for like 2 months from then. And we were like, all right, we're going to apply. He's been in business for like 5 months and is booked solid 2 months ahead, like saving people from surgery that they didn't need to have. And I'm just so inspired because I have a hard time counseling people who are like, how do you run a business? What do you do? What I want to be like you. I want to run a business. It just all came to me really organically, and I didn't have to try hard for it. And I never searched for my purpose. It just was always with me. And it's hard to explain to people how that is. And it usually leaves people with a little bit of resentment if they have to work hard for trying to figure out what they want to do. And I've been able to watch that journey of his, and it's been so inspiring.
Yeah.
The last one, motivation, is my clients, everyone who works with royal figures. I am fortunate enough where I get thanked a lot. And I think sometimes this is a thankless field, but they not only thank me verbally, but they give back with their effort. And that's like all I can ask. And their effort motivates me to do my own, do everything I do harder.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I know a lot of people that get that from their clients. It's very rewarding to see people grow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. Grow, heal, all those wonderful things. Um, let's see. So who would you like to be interviewed on the podcast? Who do you think would be somebody that people, especially the women in this,
Yeah,
can learn from?
I have a few.
Awesome.
Stay thick if you,
Yes.
haven't interviewed her. And the Real Donut Queen, Stephanie Foley. If you haven't interviewed her, I can give you both of their information, but they're both really good friends of mine. I go to them with bodybuilding thoughts, feelings, questions. We're all kind of on the same level, and they have a lot of their own cool philosophies.
Yeah.
Both in healthcare. So that's another like barrier that we have with our schedule and can relate in.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. That's great. I'm always looking for ideas, and I love getting a variety of, the seasoned pros who have been in the industry the longest. Obviously, a lot of them have not been able to tell their story because social media was, in its infancy when they first started. So I love hearing their stories. Kira Newman is still one of my favorites, at having her on and just hearing her whole journey. But and I just, again, the up and coming crew that is, the people in their 20s right now, there's such a great group of women on social media that are paving, this new way and stuff. So it's really, really, yeah. So, well, Hailey, this was really great. It was like having a coffee with a friend.
Yeah, I agree.
So we will, I definitely will reach out to you in September, and we'll do a Q&A or see how your prep went, with you earning your pro card and everything else. So
that would be so fun.
Yeah. And I wish you all the best. Thank you for your time.
Of course. Thank you. I had fun.
Awesome. All right. So, so you can find Hailey on Instagram, at Hailey Wegner 7, right?
Yep.
Is that the best way for people to get a hold of you?
It is.
So for maybe you have a wait list now with clients right now, right?
Right. Yep.
Okay. All right. So sending DMs, and then you can find me on Instagram at buffcake22 and follow the podcast at Women's Maximum Fitness. Like, subscribe, leave your reviews. Those written reviews are so great for helping these athletes like Hailey get their stories out, which are so relatable. And that's why I just love hearing everybody's background. So, and remember that healthy looks different on everybody. So have a great day.
Thank you. You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.